everyone to Spooky Japan podcast. Today we have a very special guest, Chris McKinnell with the Warren Files. You're also with the Warren Legacy.
It's called the Warren Legacy Foundation for Paranormal Research. That's right.
Okay, awesome. I also saw on your Facebook it looks like you had a weight loss journey. I just have to say, from the before and after, amazing.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I've lost about, I think it's about 115 kilograms.
Wow.
Wow, yeah,
Thank God.
that is amazing. Yes.
Congrats.
You also,
Well,
growing up, you also learned about the paranormal from Ed and Lorraine Warren themselves.
yeah, well, they're my grandparents. So I was
Yeah.
I was immersed in it. And I started going on lecture tours with them when they were 14. I was already investigating other religions and trying to understand what my crazy family was up to. Uh, by the time I was 14 and I saw my grandmother, we were in this television interview,
Mhm.
and we were not allowed to go in. They brought us to a haunted house,
Right.
and we were not allowed to go into it. So there was also a local reporter there, a newspaper reporter. He had all these notes about the case and what was going on in the house, but he had not yet done his story. And I watched my grandmother sitting outside that house talking about this apparition of this fat man, bald, with a bloody apron, carrying some kind of meat cleaver, the smell of rotting meat coming out of the kitchen, all sorts of things. And I'm watching my grandmother say these things while I'm reading the same things off of the reporter's notes. And I'm thinking to myself, my grandmother's an X-Men. It was extraordinary. And then, of course, on that same trip, I met one of the three exorcists that worked on the true case that the movie The Exorcist is based on.
Okay.
So I was already completely immersed and very interested at 14. And then when I was 16, my grandfather took me on a poltergeist case. And this one was out of control. It was my very first case. I've never looked back. After that crazy night, I just felt like I need to understand what this is.
Mhm.
Mm.
I can only imagine seeing. I mean, actually seeing stuff in the real, seeing the stuff that you did. Now, did you are you also gifted like Lorraine is?
Yeah. It's something I never was comfortable with. My grandmother trained me.
Mhm.
Growing up, like most people who have these gifts, I didn't know what I was dealing with.
Right.
My grandmother couldn't tell me because my mother is terrified of the paranormal, won't address it, won't look at it, doesn't want anything to do with it. And my dad, he never believed. So instead of getting the help I really needed, I was going to psychologists, social workers, etc. When the whole time I knew there were spirits in my room. I knew they were around me. My room was always freezing cold. I could hear them. I could sense them, and I was terrified. But it wasn't until that first night when I actually had to confront my fears, actually immerse myself in those fears, that I freed myself. And I've never been afraid since. And I learned an important lesson there. Fear is the real enemy.
Mm-hmm.
It totally is. Yes, I wish I grew up with the paranormal because I have a little bit of the gift too. But it's just growing up. I grew up with it being the most scary thing in the world too. Because I grew up a Baptist minister's daughter, so
Southern Baptist?
not Southern because I was born in Michigan, so that Baptist, but still they had that fear. Anyone who had a gift, you must either have been doing witchcraft or you're had a demon attachment or possessed somehow. And being a young kid, and you're trying to explain, I'm not doing anything, and no one believing you. To me, was the scariest thing.
Yeah, unfortunately, there are a number of Christian sects out there that are not very accepting, which I've never understood, especially about psychic abilities, because it very clearly says that there are gifts of the Holy Spirit, like speaking in tongues or discernment.
Yeah. So I was gonna say it's a gift of discernment, but
Yeah,
Yeah.
but instead of actually listening to the Bible, they pick and choose what they want to believe,
yeah,
like
Yeah.
most religions.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a shame. I'm
I'm
sorry to.
Catholic, and it happens to me too that they don't like what I do. And
Mhm.
it's just that I've kind of like moved away from the Catholic Church because parishioners don't like what I do. And it's really sad because if you're born with a gift, or if you're given the gift that you could hear spirits, you could see spirits, why not embrace it? Why not accept it instead of saying, no, we don't want you? Like, that's not what it's all about, right?
Right.
God gave us our gifts so that we could use and we could help other people. So why not embrace that gift? And they said, and then I
Well,
just don't want to.
for people who need the help,
Yeah.
um, we in the Warren Legacy Foundation, we have on Facebook a support group for sensitives, for psychics.
Mm-hmm.
It's only for people who consider themselves to have a psychic gift. You're not going to get readings in there. We're not going to
No.
discuss demons and things like that. It is a
Mm.
place of learning. It's a place of support. It's a place where you don't have to feel alone with your abilities.
Yeah.
So anybody, yourselves included, if you're interested, let me know, and I will get you the link to the Warren Legacy Foundation Psychic Support Group. It's free, it's anonymous, and we are very, very protective of our people.
oh yeah, that is
I
definitely something we would want to
I
join.
yeah. I keep my mouth shut because I don't want to be in the loony bin in this country because it's very cold. It's very hard to tell anybody what you do, and all my children are all psychics too.
Mhm.
My daughter, she doesn't want to. She just said no. My eldest son, my youngest son, they all know. They all see, and they embrace it. But my daughter, she won't. She's just rather not. After what she saw a full body apparition and looking and going, and they said, no, not do this. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's really hard when you see your children seeing things, but in the beginning you couldn't see it. Now all of a sudden you can see it. You wonder, how could I help my son? But I supported him every way, every moment of it. And it was really difficult dealing with it with him. And all I could do is I could say, damn you, how dare you attack my son, and how dare you show my son these things. And my son was so pale all the time. It's just I just thought, you don't have the right to do this to my child when he was little. And it was something that I had to deal with. And finally, he grew up and he was able to handle it all by himself. But I couldn't do it when he was little. It was so hard.
Mhm.
And I still kick myself because I couldn't help him. But now I could. I wish I knew back then what I was dealing with. But then I was getting kicked around too. But like it's really hard.
Yeah.
But you know,
If there's anybody listening who has children who are gifted,
yeah.
I do know of a wonderful group on Facebook. It's not one of our groups, but it is a group that I know well, and it is very good for the parents and the children. Gives them a lot of resources. So people just reach out to me on Facebook. More than happy to give you that information and help you get the help you need. By the way, I am the director of the Warren Legacy Foundation.
Mhm.
We are carrying on the work of my grandparents. I've been doing this since 1980. All of our services are free and confidential. So anybody who comes to us, we're not going to expose you to the public, and we're not going to charge you. And we're never, ever going to say something like, oh my God, you got a demon, we can't help you, and we're going to run away. Like some of these crazies do.
I had the lady saying, I got a demon in my house. I said, hold on, let me look. And I looked and said, it's just spirits in the dark energy. I can get rid of that for you. And they go, can you? And she goes, yeah. How much do you charge? Nothing. She goes, oh, please help me, please. I go, okay, I'll help you. And I got rid of it. And she said,
Mhm.
whew. thank God. But I said I can't get rid of the guy in the wall that they threw a dead body in the wall. And I said, I can't get rid of him until you open up the wall and get rid of the body for yourself and, have this police take it. And she goes, my husband doesn't want to open up the wall. I said, okay, he's going to be there forever now.
He has unfinished business. I would think he wants to be found
through the walls. And I said, well, I tried my best. I tried to talk to him. He said he's not going to leave. And I said, well, what else can I do, right?
There are ways to push a human spirit out, but I don't like them.
No.
I agree with you. I think of any human spirit as just a person.
Yeah.
Whether they've got a body or not a body, I'm
Yeah.
not going to attack them. I don't like the term ghost hunter, even though that was my grandparents' title. I think it's a terrible title. I don't hunt people.
No, neither do I. I'd rather be called a spirit advisor or something else like that. I don't even like the word clairvoyant. I hate that name.
Oh, I never use any titles or labels. If I have to use one, if somebody tries to pin me down on what exactly it is we are, I say we're paranormal social workers.
Yeah.
We're going to help you get the services you need, regardless of what the problem is. If you've got a mental health issue, we're going to help you get a psychologist or a therapist. And by the way, this is really important for people to understand when they're listening to me say something like that. If you come to me and you've got a problem, don't hide things that are going on. Certainly don't hide your mental illness or your drug addiction.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say, oh, that's all it is, and then walk away from you. Because that's the underlying issue that makes you vulnerable to the paranormal. And that we also have to treat. See, when you're dealing with the paranormal, and I'm not talking to two of you, you guys know, but it isn't a magic wand. We're not just waving something and saying, zip, bam, boom, you're free. No, normally it's your spiritual battle. I'm there to help you. I'm an exorcist. I'll do that too. But after almost 44 years of doing this work, I can honestly say I have only participated in either assisting or leading about a dozen exorcisms in 44 years. People call us all the time and they say, oh, I got a demon in my house. I think I have a demon. I said, trust me, if you had a demon in your house, you wouldn't say, I think I have a demon. There'd be no doubt in your mind about what you have.
Yeah.
And that's another thing I want to bring up. Now, it's wonderful that I'm talking to people in Japan as well here, because the truth is the paranormal manifests according to your cultural and spiritual beliefs. You're not going to get Beelzebub in a Buddhist family, for instance.
No.
You're going to get Garuda or something like that. You're not going to. Everything manifests according to what we believe it should manifest as, which to me is an indication of our power. How are we shaping this energy into something so terrifying? Some people would say, and I understand this because this kind of was my viewpoint a couple of years ago. Some people would say, well, they're manifesting that way to terrify you more so you'll throw out more energy and they can feed off of you. Well, that's partially, all right, I should not ever say true or false because there are no experts in this. That's not what I believe right now. Okay? I do believe they feed off of our energy. Absolutely. So the first thing I tell my clients is clean your home, get rid of the clutter, stop arguing in the house, take it outside, resolve it before you come back in the house. Open the windows, bring light into the home, put on happy music or comedies, things that make you want to dance, anything to raise the vibrations of your home is incredibly powerful. And it's a great first step to helping yourself.
I agree with you.
These things in the way they manifest to me, for instance, elementals, things like elves and goblins, etc. I have experienced some of these. in my travels. And I've been lucky enough. I've lived on every continent except Antarctica and Australia. And I've been investigating everywhere in the world, from West Africa and the Middle East all the way to Asia, currently in South America, you name it, Europe. And every religion has different ways of dealing with spirits, and every one of them works.
Yeah.
To me, that's incredibly powerful. That says to me, now I'm a pastor. I should make that clear to everyone. I am a pastor without any religion whatsoever. And that's because in my learning, what I've learned is God doesn't care what your religion is.
Yeah.
He cares about your faith in God, your trust in God, and whether or not you've understood the one commandment that really means anything. As you do unto the least of my brothers, so you do unto me. Love thy neighbor. However you want to phrase it, that's it. Be more like God.
Yeah.
You do that. It doesn't matter which route you take to get close to God. As long as you're practicing that, you're on the right path. And that's the way it is around the world. It isn't the prayer. It's not like saying, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom. That doesn't mean anything. If you're not thinking about those words, if you're not feeling those words, if those words are not a focus for your faith, then it's meaningless. If you don't believe in it, it's nothing to you. It's worthless to you.
Yeah.
And
You
that's
have to put your
many
intention.
objects.
Exactly. I always say put your intentions in everything that you do. And even when you say, this is my house, leave my house, I always say, now put your intentions in that. Say it like you mean it. Don't be rowdy. Don't be rude. Just say, get out of my house. And then open up your window and say, leave. And then it works. You know that it works.
It can work for you.
Yeah.
For most people, ritual is a very good tool for focusing your intention and your faith. So a ritual cleansing is more effective than simply saying some words. You do it the way you do it, and it works because you know how to do it, and you're putting all of your energy into it.
Yeah.
Whereas the ordinary person would need normally to at least do some kind of maybe smudging the home and saying, by the power of Jesus Christ, I command you to be gone. This is a house of God. You're not welcome here. That kind of thing. Yeah. And again, it doesn't matter if you believe in Jesus or Krishna or Buddha or whomever you believe in. God has many faces, in my opinion.
Right.
NASA said that there are more living worlds in the universe than there are grains of sand on Earth. And if God is the God of all of those living worlds, I have a hard time believing that we have a good grasp of God. To me, my faith came from my ignorance, accepting my ignorance. I spent 50 years trying to find out which religion was right and what I should do to understand the mind of God. Yeah. And then I realized what an egotistical jackass I was. How could I understand the mind of God? An amoeba on the back on my back has a better chance of predicting what I'm going to do next year than I do understanding God's plan.
Right. How do you think ghost hunting has changed, or paranormal investigation has changed from when your grandparents did it until like now?
Honestly, the thing that bugs me the most is people watch all these videos of my grandparents, and then they watch these movies. The movies are fantasies. They're based on real cases, but they're not real. Yeah. And when you watch my grandparents on television, or YouTube or where have you, you're seeing them in the 70s, 80s, maybe a little bit in the 90s. That is not what they believed by the time they died. We change over time. We adapt our theories. Like I said earlier, a few years ago, I had a whole different idea on how these things manifest than I do today. Today, I think if it's an inhuman spirit, I believe it's our energy. I don't believe in demons, and I'm an exorcist.
Mm.
I believe that these are entities we create with our own living energy, like an egregore or a tulpa or a poltergeist that takes on a life of its own. It separates from us. It's almost like a dissociative personality disorder. But instead of it just being inside of you, it's literally outside of you and manifesting. I have seen plenty of evidence that living human beings have tremendous power. I was thrown across the room with my cousin in a bed one night because the 10-year-old was pissed we were using his bed. If a living 10-year-old boy can use his mind to throw us across the room, we are capable of miracles.
Yeah.
And to me, that's the important lesson of the paranormal. It isn't that there's something out there to get you. It's that we have the power to shape our local reality. And the only limitations on us are the limitations we put on ourselves. I never say I can't. I always say I won't. Because can't takes away my power.
Yeah.
It's also why I don't label myself when it comes to things like clairvoyant, medium, whatever. You know, ooh, which of the powers do you have? I'm like, I don't know. I'm gonna try to do every single thing I can, and if it works, great. But I'm a psychic who doesn't believe, or no, I'm a psychic who doesn't trust psychics. I don't trust myself without evidence. There was during just before an exorcism, it was we were preparing it. Bishop McKenna and I were with 3 other men that I worked with at the time. My grandparents were there as well, but they didn't participate at that point. And while we were getting ready for this very major exorcism, I remember my grandfather saying to my grandmother that he didn't feel well. He felt sick. And my grandmother looked at him and he said, "Hey, why don't you have a banana? I think you're low on potassium." He wasn't low on potassium. He was having a heart attack. And my grandmother, one of the greatest psychics ever, couldn't see it. So I learned that when you're emotionally attached, when your emotions are involved, a psychic is not reliable. Even the best psychic in the world is only good about 70% of the time.
Right.
But a psychic can destroy a family with a word that they shouldn't have said, like demon. So I don't let my psychics talk to the family and share their feelings until after we've started an initial investigation. The psychic goes in, they check things out. They don't know anything about the case. They write down or record their feelings and what they believe is there. And then the team goes in and they do their own investigation before they even look at what the psychic's doing. That way there's no bias, no research bias. And it seems to work out for the best that way.
I like going in blind first, so I don't know what's going on, so I can find out what's going on for myself. And then I do what I need to do, or I say what I need to say, and then I'll handle it that way. Because if I get bombarded with a whole bunch of EVPs and stuff like that, it's not going to work for me. It's going to mess up my head, and I don't want anything to mess up my head. It's just the way that it works. And I can't stand people who say, "What am I thinking about? What am I thinking?" I go, "I'm not Harry Houdini, okay? I can't do that. I don't know how to do those things." Please don't, because that doesn't work. I'm not Madame Medusa. It's not a circus,
I always tell people, this isn't a game. This is real, and we're dealing with real people's lives. I have lost 2 people to possession. They died. Both of them took their own lives. I had another one of my guys the night before he was supposed to go on a major bad case that had attacked many people. And he had a stroke. A young man had a stroke the night before he was supposed to be there. So this is not something to be taken lightly. It's not a hobby. It's a calling. And if you're going to get involved with this, you should be doing it with people who know what they're doing.
Yeah.
So you check them out, you make sure they've got a good reputation, and always have an open mind. Don't just believe everything they say. Look for evidence that they're correct. None of us are experts. As
No.
long as you are going in there with the understanding that you're there to help,
Mhm.
that's what's important. You're not there to get 5 seconds of video that makes you the cool guy on TikTok. You know,
Yeah.
you're there to help someone.
Yeah. Exactly. Like, because this is Japan, because the spirits are different. I lived in a suicide condo, and my next door neighbor, her husband died. They just moved there 5 years ago, and he died of brain cancer. He was only 36 years old. The lady downstairs got a heart attack, and she died. And I'm saying that this is not to be played with, and they can kill you, and you have to be careful what you're doing and what you're saying. You can't say anything that's negative. You can't say anything nasty because they'll they love it, right? And especially live in a place like that, you have to be careful. And that's why we moved out. I said I couldn't handle it. I said nope.
Yeah.
My kids were getting rushed in an ambulance to the hospital, and I was getting rushed in an ambulance to the hospital. I just couldn't handle it anymore. I said, yeah. I told my husband, we gotta leave. He goes, yeah, we're leaving. So we moved out. And there's nothing that you can do with a huge condo with all these entities all over the place. I said, no, can't cleanse it, can't do anything, gotta go. So I left. And yeah, it's time to heal. So I've been slowly trying to heal myself. I'm getting a little bit better now. So yeah, I feel better now. But it was really bad. I mean, I think I wouldn't want my worst enemies to live there. For me, it's like hell on earth. And
Actually, I was just going to say, Japan is one of the few countries in the world where ghosts can be actually deadly.
yeah, especially
Thailand too, Indonesia.
suicide. They commit suicide. They they um they do all kinds of things, and they get jealous. They can be nasty. They can be rude. They can tell you what you should kill yourself, like what I was hearing in my ear. And I said, no, not doing that. Not going to give you the benefit of my life for that. Not going to exchange my life for that. Are you absolutely nuts? I said, forget it. I'm not doing it. And I turned it off till we moved out, and it was pretty nasty. Like it affected all my kids, all my children. I said, this is not the place to live. This is
No.
not the place to raise children. And I tried to find some information about it, about the place that we lived in. Couldn't find anything from real estate. They don't know anything. You know, people sell their land to developers, even though it's bad. They build stuff on top of it, and yeah, crazy stuff happens. And you wonder why, because 90% of this place is haunted, right? And I live in Tokyo, and it's really bad here in this city. And yeah, it's just like my side is all suicide and crazy stuff, and her side is Amanda's side is more like old spirits and old things happening, and yeah, it's just totally different. And
Well, that's also, this is just a theory, but my theory would be that's also because of the Shinto religion. It's
that's
all
what
about
I
ancestor worship.
think. So
It's constantly giving them recognition and empowering them and making them far more powerful than an ordinary human spirit would be.
I'm Shintoist too. I kind of like moved more to Shinto religion than the Catholic religion because it was more me and more part of my family too. So, you're Buddha when you die, and you're Buddhist when you die, and you're Shintoist when you live, as when you're born. And so, yeah, it's
Bless you.
just part of me. It's just part of me, and yeah, and I've always got myself cleansed every year because what I do, and I have to get cleansed every year. In fact, I'm going in June to get cleansed this year because I need to. It's just I got a lot of baggage.
You should probably be psychic grounding every single day.
Yeah, I do that too, but I got a lot of baggage. even still, even what I do. And I don't do I don't do my work in Japan, but I do my work only in the United States because it's a lot. They call me and say help, and I go okay. Like they got this white flag. Go, okay, I need help. Like, okay, I'll help you. But yeah, it's been a roller coaster ride too. Oh, by the way, Lorraine Warren just told me, she said say hi to you.
Yeah, she pops up a lot.
Yeah.
My Graham is one of the most active spirits. Her and Padre Pio, but
Yeah.
she's always. She came right after. I mean, the moment she died,
Mm-hmm.
I was with her when she died. It was just the two of us.
Oh wow.
I had lived with her the last year and a half of her life, taking care of her, and I spent the entire day with her. She was suffering from Alzheimer's. She didn't even know who I was for a few months.
Oh wow.
But she could remember her music.
Mm-hmm.
And so I put on her favorite music that I bought her this music box and programmed it. And we were singing songs, Christmas carols and everything else. And I realized the room was filled with spirits. And I said to my grandmother, I said, Grandma, can you feel these? She didn't know what I was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But after a bit, first time in months, she looked at me and she said, I love you. And I could tell with the spirits in the room and her saying something like that, I knew this was it. This was the day.
Yeah.
And I was happy for her. I didn't cry when she died. I was overjoyed. She was with Ed. Why would I be upset? I mean, my grandfather was right there waiting for her.
Mm-hmm.
He used to show up all the time. Not so much anymore. I think since my grandmother died, he's backed off.
Mm-hmm. Because he's around a lot more than he is. I asked him if he's around. He said, "Yeah, I'm around, but not so much." But she's around more than he is. I see her there more than, but his voice is there, but she's there more than he.
I've never. How do I put this? There have been a few times both of them have shown up.
Mm-hmm.
There have been plenty of times my grandmother shown up by herself. My grandfather has never shown up by himself.
Actually, she's saying to me right now that when you do something, when you go places, when you do something that's to me dangerous, I show up. I try to warn you, be careful, because it's not easy as you think, and it's kind of dangerous, and I don't like it, she said.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we had a problem when I was in Paraguay a few months ago.
Mm-hmm.
I had been under a magic attack. I had upset a magic user. Not unusual. But I'm more scientific based. I'm very, very skeptical. It's not that I don't believe in the paranormal. I, of course, know it exists. But in every single case I work, I'm always looking for the natural first. Mm-hmm. So, it takes a lot for me to get to the paranormal.
Mm-hmm.
My grandmother had to visit 4 or 5 different psychics on the same night and say, Chris is in trouble. He needs to get help immediately. Mm. And I was like, all right, Graham, now I'm listening. So I performed a ritual cleansing of the home and of myself. Everything immediately was fine. I mean, I had been electrocuted. I couldn't walk. I had bruises appearing all over my body I couldn't understand. Things were breaking throughout the house all the time. And then as soon as I got rid of the attack, everything was fine.
Yep.
But that was because of my grandmother.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Thank God for grandmother, right?
There was another time I was in Costa Rica, and I was in a haunted sanitarium. It had been used at the turn of the last century as a tuberculosis ward. And they had a children's wing.
Oh,
and
dear.
At first, everybody was following me around. I'm like, will you people leave me alone? Everybody's got their cameras and everything. I'm like, all right, stop. And I escaped. I got into this one little room, and this little child came up to me, a spirit. And I'm speaking to the child in Spanish because I'm in a Spanish-speaking country, and trying to convince the child that his parents and his sister had died 100 years ago. He can go now. He can go back to them, but he wouldn't listen to me. And then all of a sudden, I realized my grandfather's over here on my right-hand side with his arms folded, like, Chris, what the heck are you doing? And my grandmother comes over from the left-hand side, and she gets down on one knee in front of the child, puts out her hand. The child took it, and they just walked away into the light. It was beautiful.
Yeah. Sometimes it takes somebody else to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. My grandparents do help a lot. They really do.
Yeah.
Did they ever have a regular attachments from spirits? Also, do you also have regular attachments from spirits that seem to follow you around or find you or?
Oh, nobody bad. I mean, I've been attacked plenty of times. I've had the gas turn on my stove 3 nights in a row without the fire, so that everything fills up with gas. I've had the car brakes go out right after I killed or got rid of a generational curse. I've had them take my glasses for 3 days and hurt my back so I couldn't even leave the house while I'm trying to get to a case. I've been stabbed, burned, poked, thrown across the room twice, levitated over a flight of stairs in the case known as The Haunting, the Schmerl case. So yeah, a lot of that can happen.
Yeah.
I don't let it bother me. I know I'm going to die someday. So I no longer care about that one way or the other. I mean, I don't want to suffer when I die, but I'm not worried about death. I prefer not to suffer a prolonged time to get there.
Have you had a case that was most frightening for you?
Well, my first case. Nothing frightened me after that first case, because my first night I was afraid of the dark. I was 16 years old. I walked into this little tract house, real tiny little house, downstairs bedroom kitchen and living room, stairs to the basement, stairs to the top floor. Top floor had 3 bedrooms, a kitchen, and pull down stairs to the attic. All important. We got to the house, me, my grandfather, and a man named Paul Bartz. The husband and wife were sitting outside the house. They wouldn't go in without us. We could hear the pounding going on inside the house even before we got in there, in repetitions of 3. Boom, 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 boom. And we looked downstairs. Most of the furniture's gone. There's a recliner and a couch in the kitchen. The refrigerator was gone. The family had moved most of the big stuff out because it had been flying all around the room. And they weren't living there anymore. So as we're going up the stairs, the walls are shaking because it's hitting so hard. You can hear scratching noises in the walls, but not like rats. Something big, and growling noises. We get to the top of the stairs, and I could see that the pull down stairs to the attic are pulled down. One night, the woman was home alone with her 2 children, 2 girls, and the husband was working overnight at the mill. And this hulking black shape walked into the room, picked up her rosary beads, and twirled them in front of her as if to say, "You think these are going to help you?" She ran out of the bedroom, and as she was trying to get to the door of the first girl, the door wouldn't open, even though there were no locks on the girls' bedrooms. And then the pull-down stairs came smashing down on her head and knocked her down. Once she got, together again, she got both doors open, got them out, and they never went back until we arrived. I looked in the bathroom, and the big crucifix hanging on the wall in the bathroom is upside down. You couldn't get more cliche on this night than any Hollywood movie. If this had been a movie, you would have said, I've seen this 1,000 times. This is stupid.
Yeah. Yeah.
So my grandfather says, Chris, I want you to sit in the master bedroom alone in the dark while we go downstairs and use religious provocation and holy church incense to try to stir things up and figure out what we're dealing with. I said, the house is shaking. We're hearing these pounding noises, and you need to figure out what we're dealing with.
Yeah, right.
So I was like, okay, I'll sit up here in the dark in the room where the lady was attacked, Grandpa.
You better give me a good steak dinner afterwards when I finish it.
Oh no, but I'll tell you what, the next hour, as they were downstairs stirring this thing up, I'm listening to the growling, the pounding, and the scratching, and yelling down to them, this is what I hear. And my grandfather keeps saying, okay, Chris, anything else happens, let us know. Okay. Every time they try to bring the Holy Church incense up, they have this in a kitchen pot. They're trying to bring it up the stairs, and it keeps going out. And this stuff, once it's lit, it is great. It just goes. But no, it would not stay lit. So then finally, Paul Bartz, my grandfather's assistant at the time, came up and relieved me. I went downstairs. Everything had died down. So the lady and I went out. We grabbed some sandwiches. We had gone out through the front door, came back. Then at midnight, we were on an all-night radio show, an AM radio show, WTIC AM Radio 1060 out of Hartford, Connecticut. And while we're there talking about the case, explaining everything that's going on, Paul and the husband are upstairs in one of the girls' room. The woman and my grandfather are sitting on the couch in the living room, and I'm also on the recliner in the living room. It's pitch black. There's no light on. We're waiting for something to happen while we're talking. 3 a.m., all hell breaks loose. 2 hulking black shapes walk down the stairs, and we could see them even in the dark, standing on the landing of the staircase. The woman screams that her face is on fire. My grandfather puts the flashlight on it, and as we watch, 3 claw marks appear on her left side, and blood drips down onto her chest. Then that pot with the church incense in it comes flying out of the kitchen around the corner and straight at my head. Just veers off at the last minute, hits the window behind me. The shade flies up. The pot crumpled, and the window didn't break.
Well,
I said an expletive over the radio because it shocked me so much. And the funny thing is, now I don't know what it's like in Japan, but in the United States, we have a time delay of 7 seconds so that they can bleep out anything that goes wrong. But that night, it didn't work on their radio station. The woman starts screaming. She wants to get out of the house. I'm saying, great idea. Let me help you. So I run to the front door as lights start flickering on and off, on and off, on and off. And the door we had just gone through to get sandwiches would not open. And then the recliner that I'd just been sitting in tumbles across the living room at me. The door opened by itself. She and I got out. One of us got sick to our stomach and threw up. I honestly don't remember which of us it was. And we left my grandfather sitting in there in the dark with these 2 hulking black shapes all alone while he's on the phone calmly talking about what he's seeing. Man was amazing. What a hero, honestly. And I will thank him till the day I die, because I went home that night, or that morning, I should say. And the next night, I went to bed without the lights on for the first time in my life. And I have never been afraid of the paranormal again.
After that, I can't imagine anything would scare you.
Oh, sure. You put somebody I love in danger, I'll be terrified. But paranormal, no. My own safety, I'm not really worried about that. I've lived 1,000 lifetimes. I'm sure I'll live a few more.
So your grandparents also had their own little museum of haunted things. Wasn't
Yeah.
it connected to their house, or was
Yes, it
that
was. It was an art studio. It is an art studio that they turned into what they call the museum. And I think that's the worst part of their legacy, to be quite
Mhm.
honest.
really
It was never a museum, and it shouldn't have been called a museum. And now everybody wants to collect haunted objects.
right?
Mm.
My grandparents took these objects so that nobody would be hurt by them. They're
Yeah.
there to protect people from them. It wasn't a public venue. It wasn't open, so you could just walk in and look at all these bizarre things. It was there more as a prison for those energies.
Yeah.
How do they
So
keep
yeah,
on getting that?
I don't want people going out looking for haunted objects. Most of the time, the crap you find online is fake. They just put a ghost story up with a broken chair, and if you're going to pay $500 for a broken chair, you're paying really for the story.
Right.
And if you are unlucky enough to actually get a haunted object, why would you want something like that? Do
Yeah.
you know how to protect yourself from it? You know, you don't want to get hurt.
People ask me, why don't I have haunted objects since I can see things? With my job, I don't want anything interfering from what I do, and I don't want anything haunted in my room.
Yeah, neither do I.
What happened to me? No, I don't want to live in a haunted house anymore. I don't want to have anything to do with it anymore in my own domain, my space. No thanks. And I said, I'd rather live in a clean, unhaunted house so I can do my work to help people. I just don't want it in my room.
Well, I'm happy if you can get that. I mean, that's the problem with being a psychic. Your aura burns more brightly than an ordinary person's, and you attract spirits because you're
I've
like a
heard that.
lighthouse in the darkness for them.
I've heard
Yeah.
that because people would say the same thing about me when they saw my aura. It's like yours is brighter than a lot of people's.
Hmm.
So I always
Yeah,
thought that has to be what attracts them is the brightness, because they said it's like a moth to the flame kind of thing. They see yours is brighter and they want to go check it out.
they're very lost. Often, they're very lost in the darkness. And when you're there, you know, because a normal living human being is like a candle. You're like a lighthouse,
Mhm.
Yeah.
a beacon for them. And so, yeah, they come running. Often, we get a lot of cases because somebody thinks that I keep moving and the spirits keep following me. It's like,
Yeah.
no, they're not following you. You just keep attracting more and more spirits because you don't know how to close yourself off. Let's talk about that. Let me help you with that. And then they're fine.
I used to say, take a number, leave me alone. This is my space, my time. Bye. And they leave me alone. But yeah, you have to be.
I can't hear you.
No, oh, sorry about that. See, that's what happens. That's what happens when I do things. That's what when I do things. It does this every time I do it, and then I get kicked off 3 times in a row every time I do this, right? Because they don't like me talking about them, and I used to say, yeah, you have to my room, my space. So you don't like it, too bad. Goodbye. You know, like take a number. That's what I usually do.
You know, the funny thing is, one thing I want to tell your audience, psychics. One of the drawbacks of being a psychic is you will burn through electronics a lot faster than an ordinary person.
Yeah.
You will go through your phone batteries constantly if you're constantly carrying your phone. You will drop calls all the time. Your computer will act crazy. And it's because of your energy. You're screwing it up. I had this one case out in England, and it was so fun in a way. This part, anyway. This was a family of very sensitive people. The woman had a lot of issues. She was agoraphobic, wouldn't leave the home. She was bipolar. Her son was on the spectrum, and they were all extremely gifted. So they constantly saw spirits wherever they were. But one thing, every single time she would try to call me, as soon as I would connect with her, the call would drop. So we had to get her mother to drive over with her phone and hold the phone, or the mother would hold the phone, and then she could talk to me. So we did an experiment. I said, all right, now, why don't you hold the phone? And as soon as she touched it, the call dropped again.
Yeah.
So yeah, it happens a lot, and spirits can be a real pain in the butt because the simplest thing a spirit can do is energy manipulation. They are energy, so
Yeah.
it's very easy for them to screw around with things like that. I can help. Just last week, my computer turned on in the middle of the night again because somebody had to get my attention.
Yeah.
You know? I had one time. Matter of fact, it was the same night after I had helped pass over that little child in Costa Rica. See, I've lived in 101 places around the world, literally 101 now. I keep track. And of course, I've lived in a lot of haunted ones. So I was in this one house and I thought it was regularly haunted.
Mhm.
And 2 o'clock in the morning, the TV turns on to YouTube playing some Spanish love song that at that time, I had just arrived in South America, Central America. I didn't understand Spanish. I wasn't listening to the music. I didn't know how YouTube turned on by itself.
Yeah.
And a few hours later, I woke up again. I said, you know what? I have to know what that song was. So I went into my history on YouTube. It wasn't there.
Mm.
And then I found out the next day I had meant to talk to this woman who was dying of cancer because she was afraid.
Mm.
And her daughter wanted me to talk to her and help her to pass over. But unfortunately, I didn't get a translator until that day. And when I got a hold of the daughter, I found out she had died the night before, and that she was the one turning on a Spanish love song, so I could tell her daughter she was sending her love.
Mm.
Amazing story.
Yeah.
A little energy manipulation.
There's whispering when you were talking, there's whispering, and I could hear it from the microphone. It was a female voice. She was going, and I couldn't understand what it was, but I could hear her talking. Yeah. Oh, and I can't wear watches. I can't wear anything like that.
No, I understand that. Yeah, that'd be bad for you.
Yeah.
Hearing aids, a lot of things. By the way, let me ask you a question. Do you have trouble? Maybe this is too personal, and if so, tell me. But do you have unusual stomach problems or
Yeah.
intestinal problems?
Yeah.
Women psychics often have the most unusual problems with their gut.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to affect men much. Most male psychics I've met, oddly, are homosexual.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that might be because they have to be hyper vigilant about their environment.
Mm-hmm.
And so it naturally evolved into a sixth sense.
Mm-hmm.
I think I just got mine from my grandparents. I mean, it's obviously genetic. Everybody I know that I've ever talked to in thousands of cases, they're like, oh, yeah, and my kids also have it, or my grandmother and my mother also were gifted. And I'm like, yeah, that's perfectly normal.
Yeah. And I get people saying, I wish I had your gift. I said, no, you don't. I said, no, you don't.
Yeah.
They said, why not? I could use it for some great use. I said, no, you won't. That's what I said. No, you don't. No, you won't. And they go, man, I wish I had your gift. I said, no, you don't. No, you won't. And they go, why? Because there's grave responsibility with the gift that I have. And there's things that I can't tell people, and there's things that I can, and there's things that I have to keep to me till the day I die.
Exactly. When somebody believes in a psychic, their word carries too much power. You have to be very careful about what you say and how you say it. And a psychic should never offer unsolicited feelings. You don't talk to a grieving father because the daughter is standing right next to you saying, please tell him. Not if the father isn't ready.
No.
It just isn't a good idea.
No.
We have to respect the living as well.
Yeah, I don't get involved with certain things, and I will not say certain things. I said, heck no. And then they go, why not? Because that's all. And I can't explain to you. I said, nope. There are things that I can do, and there are things I can't do, and there are things that I will say, and there are things that I won't say. Like I get children, right? I get a lot of children. I get a lot of dying children too. And I get a lot of children who are killed, murdered. I get those too, and I go, Yeah, it's pretty grim, right? And I do a lot of cold cases too, where children have been killed, and I go, yeah, I don't like this job, but I've been asked to help, and so I do it. I got,
How have you gotten the police to listen to you?
yeah. I don't work with the police. I just work with other psychics who need help, and I said, okay, I'll do it. And I go there, and I said, okay, I'll go there, and so I have to travel there psychically to travel there, and I have to see what I can see, pick up what I can pick up, see what I can see, and see who's doing it. And yeah, it's not a fun.
No, no, it's not.
It's the most worst thing that you ever feel and see, and yeah, I don't want to go there, but I do. I have to, and I know who did it, and I know how he did it, and I know what happened. But yeah, it's not a great, it's not a great feeling. It's not a great, 90% of it's really unhappy and really sad, but you have to do it because it's what you do.
We
Well,
also had
you're the
another
type of
psychic.
person.
We also had another psychic on the show who said that anytime she has the children's spirit, she can't handle children's spirits because they're like it's different. I refer them to a friend who can handle it because she's like I can't. I emotionally can't do it because it's heartbreaking.
I was a child abuse investigator and family therapist for 7 years, and I think I would rather deal with a child who's already passed than deal with a living child who's still suffering. Because
Mhm.
with a child who's passed, I can help them end that suffering.
Yeah.
So that to me is empowering, not something I feel like I would have a problem with.
Yeah.
But I'm one of those very few lucky psychics that when I was young, I didn't have control over my abilities.
Mm.
And in my early 20s, especially like in college, in my teens and 20s, I loved reading people's auras because everybody thought it was a parlor game. But then I realized how much I was terrifying them by sharing things they didn't want people to actually see.
Yeah.
And I stopped reading auras. And I have read one aura in the past 40 years, I think. 36 or 37 years anyway. And then by the time I was 26, I just walked away from it completely. I just couldn't. I closed myself off, and now I only use my abilities during my work, and it works for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
How did going back to their everyone calls it a museum. I don't know what you would call it, the collection of haunted items. How did they prevent the spirits from coming into the house, or did they stay in that room?
Well, that's another thing. Everybody thinks my grandparents great experts on everything.
Hmm.
They didn't even believe in demons for the first 6 or 7 years of their investigations, and then by the 80s, everything was a demon for my grandfather. He bought into the whole satanic panic of the 80s, and that was too much. And he backed up on that afterward. People don't understand the process of learning that went into that. I'm so lucky that I got to learn from every mistake they made. They at first, like I told you, Annabelle was sitting in a rocking chair.
Yeah.
It was trial and error, figuring out how do I contain these energies. All right, a box alone, what's that going to do?
Yeah.
All right, well, let's put blessed salt in there. Let's put holy objects around it. Let's say prayers around it every single day so we can reinforce the protections around it. And it worked. And that's what we did with the entire building. But oh, no. I'll tell you, my grandparents had lots of times things came out from the museum and attacked them. Matter of fact, the night that they were invited to the Amityville Horror, they had been invited by Channel 5 News. They had never heard about it. It wasn't famous. Nobody knew what it was. But that night, it was 3 o'clock in the morning. My grandfather was in his office in the museum, and there's this like almost medieval corridor that goes down to the basement in their house and then up to their the rest of the house. And he heard the chamber door open to the walkway. And he assumed it was my grandmother, and he heard 3 footsteps. He figured it's his wife bringing him a cup of coffee. And he's like, "Hey, Lorraine, I'm back here in the office." And then he realized he had only heard 3 steps. And then the room got very cold. He could see his breath. The desk lamps started flickering on and off. And he could hear this like whirlwind coming. And he said, "Oh no, what's coming at me?" He grabbed his holy water. He grabbed a crucifix. And as he got up, the door to the museum swung open with a slam. This whirling black whirlwind came into the museum and then came across to the other side, resting right in front of where Annabelle was. My grandfather didn't want it to manifest completely, so he came straight at it, saying, "By the power of Jesus Christ, I command you to be gone," throwing holy water on it. It wasn't stopping. He could hear animals outside screeching like they were fighting one another. There were no animals there, but it was just scare tactics. And then this thing swirls around, goes back down through the corridor, and leaves. And my grandfather realizes it's going for Lorraine. And he didn't want to go down that corridor because he didn't want to be trapped in a tight space with that kind of energy. So he ran out the back door and went outside to run up the back stairs and then of the porch and then into the house. In the meantime, my grandmother was in the house in bed with her dogs reading a biography of Padre Pio. And she could hear this freight train, this whirlwind coming at her, and she was terrified. And she could hear it slamming in the kitchen and through the living room. And she said, "I could tell it was looking for me." I don't think so. I really don't. I think it knew exactly where she was and was just terrifying her.
Mhm.
She got up on her knees. She wasn't sure what she should be doing. Now, this was 1976, I think, 75, 76, maybe up to 78. And she still didn't know how to deal with these kind of things yet. But she got up, the dogs cowering behind her. This thing came into the room, swirling around. She was out of her mind. She finally figured out what to do, grabbed a crucifix or a rosary and said, "By the power of Jesus Christ, I command you to be gone." The thing swirled around again, went into the living room, just as my grandfather came in from the back, from the kitchen door in the back. It went toward the kitchen, and right before the kitchen, there was a fireplace, and it went right up the chimney and out. And my grandfather and grandmother just looked at each other and said, "Whatever's going on in Amityville, this is not an ordinary case." Honestly, I'm so absent-minded, I've forgotten why I told you that story. So I apologize.
It's okay. It's okay. I'm glad you told me. Yeah,
It's an interesting story, yes. How do you think they would feel, though, seeing how people treat Annabelle now? Like, some people, because I know in the box they put absolutely do not open, but you have people opening that door all the time to take pictures.
I
I've
know.
seen one person opening it and they're giving Annabelle a kiss on the cheek, and I'm just like,
What?
yeah, I've seen it. I saw that picture, and I'm just like, I feel like the Warrens, if they saw this, would not be thrilled.
Oh, no. No, I'm sorry. Look, that's my family.
Right.
Yeah.
That's my mother and her husband that own the doll. I don't agree with what they're doing. I think it's incredibly dangerous. I don't think he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
Putting on holy oven mitts that have been doused in holy water so he can pick up Annabelle, I think is the stupidest idea I've ever heard of in my life.
Yeah.
No, no. But I don't work with them. They're Hollywood-based kind of thing. They're entertainment-based. I have no interest in that. I'm interested in educating people, helping them to empower themselves and help them to escape the paranormal.
I think disrespect to the spirit.
It is.
Disrespect to the doll. I deal with haunted dolls too. I talk to them also. I bind them also. But I think, people are stupid, okay? And they do dumb things, okay? And they wonder, gee, I wonder why I don't feel good. I go, gee whiz, yeah, you wonder why, right? I go,
So I feel like a lot of those people have to be feeling afterwards who just open a thing to get the photo with it. And I'm just like, it says absolutely do not open for a reason. Why are we opening it for a picture?
Well, the truth is, the display case they use when they go to these conventions is not the same display case that's in the museum. They're taking the doll out of that safe space and putting it into another one.
Yeah.
No, nothing about that seems safe to me.
No. It's just really disrespectful. And I just don't.
Let's see, I don't think of Annabelle as an entity in itself. To me, again, it's a thought form. It's a manifestation of human energy. My grandmother, when she confronted it, she got that negative energy and she interpreted it as demonic. But Annabelle was a gift. It was just a Raggedy Ann doll that had been given to two nursing students by one of their mothers. And they loved that doll. And they sat it with them all the time. And they poured their love and energy into it. So one day, the doll's arms levitated up onto the table. You know, this is like 67, 68. And all they thought was, oh, how cute. There must be a spirit in the doll. Let's have a seance. And they got a friend of theirs who called herself a medium, who, again, this is why I don't trust psychics, who came up with the whole story of this little girl named Annabelle who had died outside of the house and was just looking for someone to love her. Now, these are two nursing students. Of course, that's going to tug at the heartstrings.
Yeah.
You know, so now they're pouring tons of energy into it. They're buying it a bracelet and other things to dress it up and make it look special. And they talk to it and they sleep with it and they eat with it. And then they notice that the doll isn't where they left it when they went to work. And it's leaving messages written in crayon on old-fashioned parchment paper. They didn't own either of those things.
I was going to say, I heard they didn't own parchment paper, so they're like, where is this coming from?
Exactly. And it would say nice things like, want to play, miss me? But the girls started becoming creeped out.
Yeah.
That's when things got bad. Now, the old-fashioned story is, yes, it tries to earn your trust and then it attacks. I don't think so. I think once those two nurses started feeding in negative energy because they felt creeped out, they felt like they were being watched all the time, like, you know, the typical haunted house experience. And then one afternoon, one of the boyfriends was sleeping on the couch. He had a nightmare and he woke up and he said, I just dreamt that Annabelle was on top of me and trying to choke me to death. And he walked across the room, he picked the doll up, he threw it across the room and he said, you're just a stupid doll. You couldn't hurt anyone. Just like my friend, Father Bill. And then just like that, some claw marks appeared across his chest and blood comes through his shirt. They immediately called one of the churches in Hartford, Connecticut, they were lucky. They got a priest who knew who my grandparents were. And that's how Annabelle came home.
I think if you put your intentions in something, of course, something's going to happen, right?
Absolutely. Well, yeah. I mean, in witchcraft, it's called an egregore. It's a spirit created to do a specific task, and then it's supposed to dissipate. But when these things are created unintentionally, they take on a life of their own and they can grow out of control and become a poltergeist or what we think of as demons.
Yeah.
Or elementals.
Yeah.
At least that's my current theory. Believe me, I've been the guy who used to think maybe these are energy beings from a different dimension and this is how they come through and influence us. And I mean, I had so many different theories over the years, but this is where I am now. You know, we adapt to the evidence. Otherwise, we're not really researchers. Nothing here is religion.
No.
You know, you have to be willing to adapt.
Yeah.
Religion or no, faith is very powerful in this work.
Yeah.
But that's human. That's you. in your relationship to what you think of as God.
Yeah.
But well, that's me. That's what I believe.
Mm-hmm. And I expect that too.
We have a doll here in Japan, in northern Japan. You might have to check out sometime. Her name is Okiku. She is named Okiku because that was the little girl who owned it. Her name was Okiku. And she was given the doll by her. She was 2 years old. She was given the doll by her 17-year-old brother. She, of course, like most little girls, treated this doll like her best friend. So she was also so when she died of either malaria or yellow fever, they go back and forth and report. She died by holding this doll. So in Japanese law at the time, they couldn't bury her best best friend or whatever her best favorite toy with her. So in Japan, it's also very common that people have like shrines in their house to their deceased relatives.
Yes.
They put the doll in her shrine, and they said every year on the anniversary of the day she died, and on her birthday is when they get paranormal activity in the house.
Mm-hmm.
But they also would notice that the hair's doll would start growing. Originally, when she got the doll, her hair was shoulder length, and then one day they looked at it and it was down past the middle of her back.
Now that I'd like to see photographic proof of. But that sounds very much like Robert the Doll in the United States.
Yeah.
Very much, because the boy loved that doll and poured all of his love in it. But the other thing, I see, here's an explanation I would come up with. Because from what I know about human spirits, whenever we're thinking about them, so, special occasions, family celebrations, holidays, birthdays, weddings, deaths, births, all of that, those are the times when spirits come back to us because we're thinking about them then. We're giving them recognition then.
Yeah.
So it does make sense that on the day of her birth and the day of her death, when people are thinking about her more on those days, maybe she's showing up and it's not the doll.
Yeah.
But wait until you hear the rest of the story. Go on.
Oh, I'd like to.
Yeah. Now so the family had her for a while. 20 years later, the family is moving, but they're afraid if we take this doll with us and we move it away from where it once, where everything happened, their belief was it takes away the magic from the doll. So they didn't want to move it far. So they gave it to a shrine with monks nearby. The monks already heard stories from people in the town. So they were excited to get this doll. There is shrines here in Japan that's what they mostly deal with is haunted dolls.
Mm-hmm.
So they were excited to get this one. They have it on display. You can visit it. They said that people claim she visits them in their sleep.
Mm-hmm.
One of the monks said that she visited them in their sleep and she kept asking for haircuts. Is her hair still growing? They're saying nowadays, though, and I'd have to go and see this, now its porcelain mouth is starting to slowly open, and they're starting to see what looks like children's teeth coming out of the gums, of the porcelain gums.
Really?
That's what they're saying, yes. I've seen a picture where the mouth does look a little open, but I have not taken a picture of what looks like the teeth. So I'm also dying to see that, too, just to see the stories when they say that.
Great stories, but I want proof.
Yeah, and I'm like, I want proof. I want to see the baby.
Yeah.
I have to admit, I run into a lot of haunted dolls. It seems to be the theme of my life. Grew up with one, and now I have to deal with all the rest.
Yeah.
Oh, there's one thing I want to make very clear to everyone. Annabelle entered our lives when I was about 3 or 4 years old. My mother was my mother at the time. She was not some prepubescent psychic running around being chased by Annabelle in some movie. My mother's not a psychic, and she's never lived with Annabelle, never wants to. She won't even go in the museum.
Yeah. How do you feel your grandparents, if they saw any of the movies, how do you think they'd feel about them?
Well, my grandmother did see the first two Conjuring movies. She loved them.
Oh, really? Okay, yeah.
Oh
I
yeah, no, she
wasn't sure
loved
they
them.
saw any of them.
She the first one especially she really liked. The second one she was feeling very weak. I remember she left halfway through the movie at the premiere, and she didn't go to the after party. Of course, she was just too tired. But I didn't like the second one. I thought it was stupid as heck, to be quite honest. There is no connection between Amityville and the case in Enfield, England. There is no such thing as the nun. That was an invention of James Wan. All of the details in that particular movie were so badly done. And the funny thing is, the true Enfield case was so much more horrifying than what they showed you in that movie. And then having the woman playing my grandmother going through a flooded basement as the guy playing my grandfather is hanging by his fingertips out of a window in a bedroom and holding onto the girl. And the woman runs in the bedroom and shouts, "Phallic!" And all of a sudden it goes away. Man, I want that to be that way. I want it to be that easy.
Yeah.
That was ridiculous.
It's almost like laughable, but think, ha ha ha, that's so funny. It's far from the truth, right?
Oh, completely. The details are never right in Hollywood.
No.
The most overused line in Hollywood is based on a true story. It's a great tagline, but it doesn't mean anything.
No.
And even worse when they say based on actual events. Okay. Yes, a man did walk a dog.
Yeah.
That's it.
There's your truth. There's your story. The end.
Yeah,
Right.
Exactly. I will say there was one scene in Conjuring 3 that was extremely accurate. And surprisingly, it made me cry. And that was at the end of Conjuring 3. I'm just going to say my grandmother and grandfather. My grandfather takes my grandfather into the backyard with her eyes shut. And when she opens them, there's a gazebo there that he got her as a gift. And my grandfather did do that for my grandmother. It's still in the backyard of their house. That made me cry. That I thought, James Wan, thank you very much for adding such a real and human touch to their story. That was beautiful.
Excuse me.
That is a nice story to hear.
Yeah.
Is there any misconceptions about your grandparents you'd like to clear up? Like something you hear all the time that you're just like, I wish.
I've addressed a lot of the things that they're accused of all the time. And it frustrates me so much. Here are two people who have dedicated their lives to helping people, just like I have. They had to advertise their cases because how else were they going to reach people in need? I don't have to do that today. I can do it this way. And if somebody's in trouble, they'll find me. But they can't do that back in the day. I hated it. I hated watching it. I argued with my grandfather constantly about publicizing cases because I saw the damage it did. But now I understand in hindsight, they had no choice. They often get accused of using their the people they were helping. I don't believe that's true. They were, you saw the Netflix documentary. What was it called? The Devil on Trial or something? Right. I thought the first 45 minutes of that were terrific. That's based on the Conjuring 3 case. But the last 10, 15 minutes, they were trying to give a balanced view of it. And one of the brothers in the house is extremely spiteful that he has not become a millionaire because of what happened to his brother. He tried to sue my grandmother after the first Conjuring movie came out, even though obviously it had nothing to do with his case. He lost. And then he started selling off furniture and everything from the house to the guy from Ghost Adventures. And now he's running around telling everybody his mother was drugging everybody and none of it was real. And please, Every single person who went in that house experienced it. It was a terrifying, horrifying ordeal for the entire family. And it was real. Other things my grandparents have been accused of, obviously, one I hear a lot is my grandfather was a pedophile. I investigated child abuse, sexual abuse for 7 years. If my grandfather was an abuser, I would have put him in the ground myself, and I wouldn't have thought twice about it.
Yeah.
He was not. And it's disgusting that one rumor seems to just keep going, even though no one has ever said, oh, yes, I was a victim of Ed Warren. No one has ever said that.
When you become famous, all the garbage comes with it, right?
Yeah.
And people don't care if it's real or not.
Yeah. They want the stories. They want the sensationalism. I know that. It's why, I used to do the talk show circuit back in my 20s in the United States. And then I realized I really hate the attention. The only reason I do this now is as the director of the Warren Legacy Foundation, I have a responsibility to get the word out there that we're here to help. Otherwise, I wouldn't do it. I'm writing my autobiography, and it's like pulling teeth because I'm so afraid it's going to become popular. I don't want people to know who I am. I want to share what I know without them knowing who I am. Yeah.
That's the one reason why we do this podcast too, is we want to talk to people and get like actual facts from people, not internet rumors or anything like that, or actual also facts on the paranormal from people who's actually studied it or who's experienced it, not people who put on their fake research or fake information. I was like, we want to know the real stuff.
Well, check out our YouTube channel. It's called The Warren Files. You won't find anything tremendously sensational on there, but you'll hear the true story of Annabelle, the true story of the Amityville Horror. You'll hear about how to protect yourself psychically, or a million other topics, because it's not just me talking. I bring in, or others have brought in, experts or people who are very experienced in various parts of the paranormal to share that information. And I want people to understand this. I don't want them to be afraid. 99 times out of 100, there's nothing to be afraid of.
It's be afraid of what you are afraid of, and what you create is something that you can be afraid of. So that's what I usually say to people. And
I spent my childhood in terror because I didn't know.
Yeah.
There was nothing ever there to hurt me. They were just human spirits.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I guess the thing I'd like to point out to everyone, again, for anybody coming in late or not watching this whole thing, though, if you need help, please reach out to us. The Warren Legacy Foundation, it's warrenlegacyfoundation.com. We've got a form there you can fill out to request help. It's in the contact us link, or even to join the foundation if that's your wish. But I will warn you, we're very careful about who joins the foundation. Because for us, it's all about the client. It's not about the researcher.
Right.
They come first. We have to always take care of them.
Yeah. It's really difficult because when we're in Japan, we want people to come out and talk to us. But a lot of people in Japan have jobs. They don't want their employers to know what they do. So they're very secretive. And I understand that too, because a lot of employees don't like dabbling in whatever, right?
Yep. And most employers now look at social media.
Yeah. So they don't want to. They don't want to be seen. They don't want to be heard, and I get that too. But I'm the only one who's come out. I do what I do. I know what I do, but I don't tell everybody what I do around here. I can't. I won't. And
I understand. I don't tell people in my village. Why would I?
Yeah.
You know?
I don't tell anybody here either. It's just
No,
you.
I think I'm a perfectly normal person. You know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not one of these like, oh, the spirits are contacting me.
Yeah, I don't do that either. My son is also my eldest son. He doesn't talk about what he does either. He did it
Yeah.
once. It scared the heck out of his teacher. Now his teacher, at that time, his teacher said, "We come to me with the bathroom. I gotta go pee." He goes, "Why do I have to go to the bathroom to go pee? Because I can't go by myself." And my son started laughing his guts up. Well, he said, "Okay, I'll come with you." But yeah, I mean, yeah, the things that people are so afraid of knowing what you do and seeing what you can see, and they just, my son thinks it's funny, but I said, think about the person. The person's scared. You're scaring the person out of
Yeah.
his butt, and he doesn't know how to do this. He can't process like you can, and he goes, yeah, yeah, you're right. I said, I said, gee whiz. But a lot of places here are very haunted, like schools are, properties are, like houses are, and apartments are, and you know you gotta watch what you buy, right?
Oh, that's true everywhere.
Yeah.
I was in Lima, Peru, in a former school, and the headmaster is still there. It's now a restaurant, and some nights they can't close the front door of the restaurant to close up, and that's because the headmaster is holding it open so that the children could get back into there before it closes.
Mm,
I mean,
That's
obviously,
funny.
a ghost can walk through a door, but that's what happens. I've
yeah.
spoken to him, the spirit, so I know it's what's really going on.
You almost need
I
a
think
psychic. Oops.
I think here in Japan I have seen the most shadow figures here compared to anywhere else.
Let me ask you. And I actually want to know what do you think a shadow figure is?
I think it's someone who passed on, who's trying to be make their presence more known.
Thank you. I agree. I don't think that there's this separate kind of entity known as a shadow person or a shadow man or the hat man. Um, Most human spirits don't have a lot of energy, and it's very hard for them to manifest physically, and they often are only a shadow. That's perfectly normal. That is your textbook average ghost. It's not a separate entity. What I find amazing, I'm guessing you've both heard of the Slender Man.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. Well, that was created in the early 1990s for a creepy pasta kind of contest online.
Mm,
No real history behind that story at all. And yet now the Slender Man is manifesting
Because
in
of
other people's cases because people believe in it.
yeah.
And that's what I
That
think the Hat Man is. It's just another fad. Like in the 90s when it was the Black Eyed Children, or in the 50s through 70s with the Phantom Hitchhikers. Actually, right after a tsunami, there were taxis picking up people who would disappear.
we
So
have that still happening here after tsunamis or earthquakes, and
that's what I
we
was
tell
talking about.
people yeah, we tell people here, so compared to the US, taxis here, passengers cannot open the door. The driver of the taxi does. They either have a button or they have a lever in their
Mhm.
vehicle. So they go pick someone up, they look at them solid, like I'm looking at you or you're
Mhm.
looking at me, and they pick them up, they give them an address, they'd say, you know, they they're having a conversation with them until they got to the destination. Once they got to the destination, they turn to them and tell them the fare. The person is gone, but the seat is wet.
Yep.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard so many, like, or leaving a jacket on the back seat, and then the driver goes back to give the jacket to the girl that left it there, and it's an abandoned old house. It's not the house that he thought he had just dropped her off at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What
Um,
is the best piece of best piece of advice do you think your grandparents would give paranormal investigators, and what is the best advice you would give?
My grandmother would tell you, you don't go in there without your faith. My grandfather would say, you don't go in there afraid, because you're counterproductive. You're going to hurt somebody being terrified.
Right.
Yeah.
They both would tell you to stay away from Ouija boards because that for them was their biggest bane. To me, it's not. Ouija board is just a piece of cardboard and plastic.
That's kind of how I feel.
Yeah, no, the problem is your intention to communicate with spirit. And the Ouija board and a seance are the only two tools I can think of off the top of my head they don't have another purpose. A pendulum or tarot cards can be used for discernment and a lot of other things that have nothing to do with spirit communication.
Yeah.
And but the Ouija board focuses your energy specifically on that. And if you're throwing a bunch of negative energy out there, that's what you're going to attract. I don't think the board by itself is dangerous, and I mean millions of people use it without any problem. But it's Russian roulette, so you got to be very careful.
Yeah.
My personal advice, though, if you're not there to help, you shouldn't be there at all. If you don't know what you're doing, you shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
Start out with a reputable group. Make sure you're learning from people you can trust. Try to keep an open mind always. Never look at anything through one religious lens. That's really important. You have to respect the religion of the family you're working with, because if they have any religious beliefs and you're using a different religion, it's not going to work because they don't have faith in it. So you have to work with them. My grandparents worked with all religions, just like we do. If you look at the Warren Legacy Foundation logo, it's got the symbols of about 10 different major religions from around the world that circles it. I would say never treat this as a hobby. Never treat it as something fun. Always keep in mind that you are dealing with other people's lives, and that's a responsibility you cannot take lightly. That would, I guess, be my most important advice.
Yeah, because that's true. Because when we were getting haunted in the other place, my son had to sit in the middle of the room. My husband had to recite Buddhist prayers to stop it from happening. And it worked for 6 months. And again, come back again every 6 months, and then I get attacked every 6 months. Yeah, that's the normal routine of that place. But so and prayers have to coincide with the place that you're living in, the country that you're living in, and you have to understand that. And not all our Father's stuff is going to work in this country. And not all Hail Mary stuff is going to work in this country either. So you have to go with the flow with the country. That's all I'm saying.
Unless, here's a case we had in Australia. One of the people that was part of the foundation for a while, her team went to a house that it had been owned by Indonesians. And then an Australian family moved in there, but they were still dealing with some Indonesian entity. And they had to use, Hindu techniques to get rid of it.
Yeah. And that's what I have to say to them. They go, I guess that's why I work overseas more than I do in this country. But another reason, I don't want to touch a lot of spirits here. I pick and choose that I want to touch because a lot of them are not so, not touching you by. I just, because I don't want to be in trouble and I don't want to die so easily and I don't want to be in the grave, and I just, nope, not doing that, not touching you. And then you say, goodbye.
A psychic has to lay down rules for the spirits. Some of them just simply say, I will give you 30 minutes from this time till this time every day.
Yeah.
If I'm in the bathroom, you cannot bother me. If I'm in bed, you cannot bother me. And you lay out the rules very clearly.
Yeah.
And if as long as you're firm and respectful,
Yeah.
most of them will respect that.
Yeah.
But they also have free will. So
Yeah.
if you're a jackass in life, you're probably a jackass in death, and you may not follow the rules.
Yeah, exactly. And then you have to say, no, you're not going to come near me. You have to leave now. And then when I do that, they go away. And I mean it. I say it as I mean it, not laughing like like that. I don't know. And I'm very firm with them, but I'm being very respectful to them too. And they listened to me and they said, okay, goodbye. And like,
Well, you're using God's gift that he gave you to do that. But most people, I believe, need to exercise free will.
Yeah.
They have to. God won't come if you don't call on God.
Yeah.
You know, good doesn't come any more than evil will come unless somebody invites it in.
Yeah. And that's why I always say protect your boundaries. Don't invite them in your house because this is your house and they don't belong in your house. And what are you doing? Like, you go, well, I didn't know that. I said, you didn't know that? Yeah, right. You know?
And there's nothing wrong with cleansing your space once a month.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that at all.
Yeah. I agree with you there. Exactly.
Or when you're moving into a new home, it's a wonderful thing to do.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that too.
Yeah, I wasn't ever used to Buddhist religion or anything like that, but still being here in a paranormal, and like you said, spirits here mostly are Buddhist or Shinto.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd still like to go to their temples and get cleansed by the monks there too, just because extra cleansing, it's not going to harm you. So
No,
I can get sage and do all that, but I also like to do the whole go to the monks, go to their temples and have them cleanse me too.
No, I agree with you completely. I don't care who the holy person is. If I believe they're truly holy, then they've got a good connection with God.
I don't think a monk, especially in their temple, is going to do anything. So.
Oh, you'd be surprised. I lived in Thailand for 2 years. It is a very spiritual country. I love Thailand with all my heart, but I've heard plenty of stories of the gambling and everything else and the different rackets that some of these monks get into. Because you have to remember, in Thailand especially, every single person is a monk at some point in their life. You know, so even the king. So you got to be careful.
Yeah.
I mean, I was lucky. I got to spend a long weekend. The Dalai Lama was at a big seminar conference, and I got to do guided meditations with him. I got to meet him. I got to, of course, learn from him several times. And the man glowed. You know, getting a blessing from him is just as good as getting one from Jesus Christ, as far as I'm concerned.
I can totally see that. Yeah. But they treat
the only
them.
other man I ever saw who was that holy was Bishop McKinnell, Catholic, pre-Vatican II Catholic bishop, and the man was extraordinary.
Mm-hmm.
He was one of the ones that taught me the most.
Mm-hmm.
They definitely treat their temples holy here, where you'll see signs in so many different languages. Absolutely no photos inside.
Yeah.
It's tempting because it is so beautiful. And their statues inside are so amazing. I'm like, I want to so much, but I can't pretend I don't see those signs because they make it obvious. They're big, they're obvious.
Yeah.
So beautiful though.
Yeah, it's a place of respect. It's not a tourist attraction.
Yeah. They definitely want it treated that way too. And that's unfortunately for a lot of tourists going over there, they have to put those signs up because there's a lot of disrespect of people coming in. I'm like, it makes me sad because we get more and more things taken away because of everyone being disrespectful.
That's everywhere in the world, yeah. I mean, they just removed the Mona Lisa from public viewing in the Louvre because people are disappointed. I saw the Mona Lisa. I was disappointed.
Yeah.
But I'm glad I saw it.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't have the expertise to appreciate the Mona Lisa properly. But to pander to the ignorant and remove it from display? Oh, come on.
Yeah.
How stupid is that?
Mm-hmm. It is.
Didn't it also get like soup or something thrown on it? Was that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the Mona Lisa did. That's right. And so did another one, a few of them.
Yeah.
Stupid.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I would know there's a few of them had like different foods thrown at it.
Yeah.
Which defeats
Like,
the
that's
whole
really going to make a difference. We all know the environment's in trouble.
Yeah.
Throwing a can of soup at a painting isn't going to reinforce that point.
Yeah. It's just people who are just disrespectful and they just don't.
Well, they're fed up and they're scared and they don't know how to get the attention to the problem, and they're desperate and they think that's going to work. And of course it's not. It's going to make them look like idiots.
Yeah. And they're going to get thrown in jail and you're going to say, yeah, they're from that and that's it, you know.
I mean, I live according to my own ethics, code of ethics.
Yeah.
It has pissed off an awful lot of people over the years. I don't lie. I tell the truth. And some people don't like that.
Yeah. Most definitely.
But, you know, I'm going to live my life my way.
Mm-hmm.
Period.
Yeah. Exactly.
I know there was a reason I told you that. Now I can't remember what it was.
happens all the time.
It's okay. Don't worry about it.
Well, Alzheimer's does run in my family.
If you feel like, hypothetically, if it was possible for you to go back in time from what you know now in the paranormal, to go back in time and investigate with your grandparents, do you think you would do things differently or?
Completely differently. And I wouldn't work with my grandfather. I couldn't work with my grandfather. We butted heads back in the day because I was more psychologically based and he was more demonically based. I wanted, to understand what was going on in the house and the people and everything else. I wanted to get them counseling as well as the paranormal help they needed. My grandfather fought tooth and nail into around 1990 before he would accept that. Even though even the demonologist written in the 70s, he talks about the psychological element. It was really hard for him to accept. And we butted heads constantly about that. I don't think the way I work and the way he worked is compatible. I would not attack or challenge a spirit unless I felt it was absolutely necessary.
Yeah.
I've done it. I do it, but I do it when somebody's in danger.
Yeah.
And my grandfather was different that way. Don't get me wrong, fearless, amazing, but in the 80s and earlier, he thought witchcraft and Satanism were synonymous. He did not yet understand the difference. I grew up thinking rock and roll was the devil's music because he truly believed that. Boy, I was not popular in high school. The high school radio station playing Barry Manilow.
Yeah.
Because of my grandfather.
Yeah.
So I don't think I could go back in time as me and work compatibly. But that's because who they were is not who they were becoming. If my grandparents were alive today and they saw what I was doing, well, my grandmother does see what I'm doing all the time, and she loves it. She loves the foundation. She's appeared to so many foundation members. She appeared to one of our members. Her name is Tammy, and she said, "Listen, dear, I know you don't know me, but I know you. And I want you to know I'm very happy about what you're doing with the Warren Legacy Foundation, and I'm here to protect you." That's the way my grandmother spoke in real life. And that's the kind of messages my grandmother's been giving to everyone.
That's amazing that she still is up. Even though she's up there, she's still keeping an eye on everything.
Yeah.
She's full of love. She's an angel.
Yeah. Like a guardian angel.
Oh, absolutely that.
Yeah, and protecting, because some spirits who do die come back as guardian angels, and they do protect you, and they do watch over you, and they care that you stay safe.
Yeah,
And
we've got plenty of guiding spirits. There was when I was 16 years old, I looked in the rearview mirror of my car. I was coming home from my first adult party, and it
wow.
was raining and blackout, and the tires on my car were bald, and it was a piece of crap car. It was my first car. And I look in the rearview mirror, and there's this old man sitting in the back seat.
Mhm.
I turn around, and he's gone.
Mhm.
Next day, I'm working at the local bakery, and I keep seeing this old man out of the corner of my eye.
Mhm.
Like, why do I keep seeing an old man?
Mhm.
So about a week later, I remembered to tell my mom.
Mhm.
She goes and she gets the family album out, and she opens it, and she says, "Is this the man you saw?" I said,
Mhm.
"Yeah, who is he?" She says, "That's your grandmother's father. I prayed to him to watch over you because he really loved you when he was a baby, and I was worried about you coming home from the party." So yeah, my great grandfather used to appear to my grandmother, my grandfather, all of us. He's always been a guardian angel for us.
Oh
I mean,
yeah.
guidance spirit.
Mhm. Which is good.
So have you always been into the paranormal? I know you started young,
You
but
want to
have
know the
you
truth? No, I don't like the paranormal.
Mhm.
I don't do this out of some fascination.
Mhm.
To be quite honest with you, when things happen at home, like the computer turning on, the TV turning on, blasting at full blast, 2 o'clock in the morning, all I can think is, I'm unplugging the friggin' TV. Leave me alone.
Yeah.
It doesn't fascinate me anymore. I've done over 4 decades. All I care about is, can I help people? I've given up on getting the answers for anything until I'm
Mhm.
dead.
Mhm.
To me, I hate what I see online, what I see on television,
Mhm.
the unethical way people do things. And I wanted to do something more. And my grandmother and I talked about it, and we created the Warren Legacy Foundation right after the first movie. I had been in the Peace Corps. I'd lived all over the world, and I had managed volunteers. Now we've got like 110 investigators around the world ready to help people for free and anonymously.
Mhm.
So I think that's why my grandmother's so excited. I wanted to keep their names alive, and I wanted to spread the work throughout the world.
that's absolutely amazing too.
Most definitely. The things that I don't like is people posting paranormal stuff in this country and putting it on YouTube, and people from YouTube sharing it. And I said, you can't share this you can't share this video. If it's from Japan, you can't share it. It's not been it has been known to kill a couple people. It's been known to make people sick. And so you can't share it. That's why I don't have it in my group. That's why I don't share anything like that in my group either, because I know what it does. And my son, he told me that, watch out for this YouTube video, this number, this number, this number, and he'll tell me the numbers. And I said, okay, what's it all about? And he tells me what it happens to people when they share it, and what happens to people when they watch it. I said, okay, I'll make sure of that. And he goes, yeah, make sure it doesn't go in your group. I said, okay, I'll do that. So that's why I'm very careful about what people share. And I said, and then people say, yeah, it's okay, I'm fine, I can watch. I said, no, you can't. No, you don't. No, you don't know what you're doing. And it amazed me, right? And they said, oh, where'd you get that? And I said, oh, I got it off YouTube. I go, okay, not sharing this. They go, why can't you share my video? I said, because it's not blessed. That's why. And he goes, well, it's from Japan, isn't it? And you're a Japanese group, right? And I go, yeah, so. And I said, you don't know what it's got on it, do you? Have you seen it? And they go, no. I go, but I think it's great to share. I go, no, you don't. Sorry, not sharing it.
Hmm.
And, the ignorance in it is just amazing. But I butted a lot of heads of people, and they just don't get it. And I get it. The only thing I know is I get it. And I'm glad I get it.
Well, the truth is, we're all incredibly ignorant.
Yeah.
When you think about the vastness of the universe, I mean, heck, even on Earth, how
Yeah.
little we know
Yeah.
about one another, about the planet we live on.
Yeah.
We're amazingly ignorant.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Nope.
A quote from my favorite book in the entire world is, here's a little test to see if you've learned everything you need to in life. If
Yeah.
you're still breathing, you haven't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why we're here. We're
Yeah.
here to learn.
Yeah. Yeah.
Has there ever been a case that was too much for you, or it's just one of those things where you're just so used to things happening that it's nothing new?
There have been cases we've had to let go, not because they were too much for us, but because the clients wouldn't cooperate in their own salvation.
Mm.
When a person won't tell us the truth, or when they won't follow through and get the help they need, there's
Yeah.
only so much we can do. You know,
Yeah.
they have to understand this is their battle too, and they
Yeah.
have to participate. And when they continually don't, you can't help someone who won't help themselves.
Oh, I had to do the same thing. I had to let go of 2 clients that, sorry, can't do that. Sorry, not going to help you. But they wouldn't cooperate. And I think they love it. I think they swell in it. I think they want it there, and that's why they're there. And I said, okay, sorry, not doing it. Bye. You know, like, and they never got back to me. I said, okay, that's fine. Leave it there. Not going to
Well,
touch it.
with my family's name, obviously, I get unusual requests. I mean, I had someone contact me from Australia and said, "We have the most haunted house in Australia. We want you to come check it out." So, you want me to get rid of something, huh? Oh no, but I'll have my videographer send you all of our evidence. We want you to tell everybody it's real. I was like, that's not what we do. I'm not here to endorse
Or
your
No.
haunted venue. I'm here
Yeah.
to help people only.
Yeah. That's
some people
exactly.
do that. Some people do that, try and fake evidence, or
Oh,
try and get a reputable team to try and say this place is haunted, just be able to charge people to go there.
Yeah.
I've had people I respect fake evidence, and that's like a gut blow. It really hurts when you find that out.
Yeah.
You know,
And why do that, right? Oh, it's just,
it's just it takes away from all of us.
yeah.
You know, it makes it so much harder to help people. It's so stupid.
Yeah. The things that when you go to temple here, people, I see tourists drinking water, and I said, sorry, you can't drink water in this temple. You have to put it away. And if you want to go outside, drink it, and come back in again. Like, and they'll bring food in the temple. I said, can't eat here. Sorry, I have even had to tell a couple of people in English, you can't drink here. It's in front of God, and you can't do that. But I'll ask, do you eat in church or do you drink water in church? They go, no, well, it's the same thing here, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So, and
Mhm.
like, well, I was thirsty. I said, yeah, I understand that, but go outside and drink and come back in again if you have to.
Mhm.
And like, I wouldn't do that in church either, and I don't expect them to do that in a temple either. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's just okay, whatever. Like, yeah, it's really hard. It's really
Is
hard.
there anything in a paranormal that you would like to clear up for people? Something, a rumor you always heard, like for us, that's everything's a demon. Is there anything?
Well, it's almost never.
Yeah.
Almost never. Um, don't be afraid just because you don't understand. That's
Mm-hmm.
my best advice I can give. Don't jump to the conclusion that it's dangerous just because you don't understand it. Humanity is predisposed to be afraid. It kept us alive when we lived in the tall grasses with things slinking around in there. But today, it's not necessary. Now, look at how we treat people from other countries, other religions, other colors, other whatevers.
Yep.
People, oh, you're different. I have to be afraid of you. No,
Mhm.
you don't. I have lived all over the world. And I will tell you, every single culture respects family, wants a nice home for their family. They like to decorate it like everybody else. They like good food like everyone else. They like sports like everyone else. They care about their jobs like everyone else. We're all the same.
Yeah.
If they've got to flee their country, you would have too in the same circumstances. Stop vilifying people because you don't understand them. Stop being afraid of things you don't understand, whether it's paranormal or natural. I mean, it's okay to have discretion. I mean, I'm not going to jump off a cliff just because I'm not afraid of the cliff.
Right.
Yeah.
I know I'll die. So I don't have to be afraid of it to know not to jump off of it.
Right.
You know? So use judgment, of course, but don't live in fear. That's my advice. The world's a much better place when you let go of your fear, and your personal power can be tremendous.
I get that.
That is amazing advice right there too.
I
Right.
think so.
I'm just a guy, But if anybody needs help, please reach out. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on, is it Instagram? I think Instagram. Is that the little red app? Something like that. Whichever one hashtag Warren Files is. I think that's Instagram. I am not a tech guy. But you can find me in those two places. You can find me on our website, warrenfiles.com, warrenlegacyfoundation.com, warrenlegacy.com. It's all the same. And please reach out if you need help or if you want to learn. I also
Yes, I was
offer
gonna
one-on-one
say.
classes.
For anyone looking for help, please, and you don't know where to turn, warrenlegacy.com. Like he said before, if no one caught it, if you're more worried about anyone finding out, you're anonymous.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And it's free.
Yeah.
Please don't ask how much does it cost. It doesn't cost anything, I promise.
They're not going to post your business for everyone in town to know or everyone in the world to know. So it's going to be
the
anonymous.
only time you hear a name of one of my people come out of my mouth is if that case has already been publicized by someone other than myself. In other words, the family came forward or there was a movie about it, then I don't mind talking about it, or a book. But otherwise, I will tell every one of my clients, please do not call any of these TV shows. You don't want the notoriety. Don't call the newspaper. You don't need it. I've been to houses surrounded by hundreds of cars who, every one of them like, oh, can we see the haunted house? No, go away.
Yeah.
No, that's awful.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We greatly appreciate it.
Oh, it was my pleasure. I really enjoyed it.
This
is the first podcast I've done from Japan.
Yeah, well, hopefully we'll have you back on again.
Yeah.
It'd be my pleasure.
All right. So everyone who joined us, thank you. All future listeners, same thing. Thank you so much for listening.
Yeah.
And everyone, bye for now. Thank you.
God bless you guys.